Tonight, we'll be going over the program at a high level. We encourage questions. So if you'd like to use the Q&A function, you can drop a question there, and we will answer it either during the presentation or at the very end. There are some details that are not finalized yet, and we do want to call that out. We are still building out our tryout programming and dates as we work with our local and national leagues that we work with. So keep an eye out on that on our website or social media. So tonight's agenda, we're going to speak high level about the program. This is geared toward our new families. So you get a feel of the mission, the values, and the goals of our programming. We'll give you a high level overview of the club. Holly will touch on the various accolades of our players and our teams and our coaching staff, and give you visibility to some of the events that we have scheduled throughout the 2025-2026 season. And with that, we want to just touch on the importance of our mission, which is to develop your student athletes. We want to make sure that everybody has the ability to compete and be good, upstanding citizens in our community, and using soccer as the tool and the mechanism to do that. So as we go forward, you'll hear different elements of the values and how we show up on and off the field, how we show up and how we travel, but ultimately to prepare our players for any challenge, any opportunity in life, with the goal of giving them the option to achieve any goal or any pathway that they seek, whether it's one day playing in NWSL or playing collegiately, or just being a great local Sunday League player. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Holly to discuss some of the benefits of being part of the Surf family. And yeah, we'll go from there. Holly.
Hello, everybody. As Scott said, I'm the director of coaching for the girls side, and a major part of that is our platform in ECNL and RL. Becoming a part of Surf has been a great networking opportunity for us and our players, getting to play with other Surf clubs around the nation, and that's down to our U11, U10 level, up to our U19 level. In addition to coaching education and coach networking, that happens every week. It's been a great way for us in Oregon to level up what we can offer and how we can grow as a coaching staff, as well as giving our players additional opportunities locally, nationally, internationally. So it's been a huge boon to what we can offer our players. So here is a picture. This does include the boys' side on the graphic. I'm just going to speak to the girls' side today since that's the topic of our meeting. But we do start as young as U5 to U7. That's our Junior Development Academy. And that goes into our older U8 to U10 Development Academy. They compete in the OYSA League. There's a little bit more information on some other slides about how many trainings that includes. The Surf Select process, which is essentially the equivalent that might make the most sense, is ODP. There's over 55 surf clubs nationally, and we send our top players to a selection process regionally. Those go on to potential national team opportunities within surf, and those start as low as U10. And then outside of that, they're competing in the OYSA leagues. For U11 to U12 is our pre-ECNL age groups, as well as our competitive leagues, which would compete in OYSA. Pre-ECNL, currently our teams are 2013s and 2014s. Those did compete in OYSA as well, but they competed a year up in the top brackets and did quite well. U13 to U14, those are official ECNL age groups when you go to 11v11, and ECNL as well as RL teams that sorry, I forgot to mention that we also field RL teams at the pre-ECNL age groups. For ECNL and RL at U13 and up, we officially start in our regional platforms. So we compete with teams in Washington and Boise on the girls' side. And locally, we compete in OISA at the RL level. Our younger teams do OISA in the fall. Same for our U15 and to U19 groups, but they are doing high school in the fall. So they are not competing in OISA in the fall. We also do offer U20 and up opportunities for men and women. And so we will talk, not focus on that tonight, but that is part of our final layer of our platform. Okay, so this is a lot of info on this slide. Trust me, I won't say all of it, but the heart of this philosophy is at these young ages, and that's U5 to essentially U10. We are really focused on learning how to become a soccer player, learning how to all the technical requirements that allow you to have freedom when you play at the older ages. We try to keep our numbers quite small, our coaching ratios small, have a lot of time with one player, one ball, allowing creativity, some structure, but not overly structured because that can at times kill creativity and development. We move into, in the middle school ages, we move into training to train. So how we spend each week in our sessions, learning to become better in those team environments. We go to higher ratios in terms of from 4v4 in our younger ages to higher ages of 77, 99 in training. And we are learning to compete. And I would say ECNL and ECNL RL are quite important for the growth of mentality that happens in these middle school ages. So it's as well as the ball work and the shooting and the technical, there's a big growth in coping with stress, understanding how to perform in the midst of high level competition. That's a big part of areas that I'm focused on now with those age groups that I'm in. And then the final layer is training to compete. So it does become about how we spend our week is how we perform on the weekend. And there's a lot of self-directed individual development plans. We start those at the U13 age group, but there's a high accountability in our older age groups to own development because as they go into the college level or beyond, if that's the ECNL RL. Okay, super proud of this slide because this is my favorite part of coaching and leading our girls' side. There's been a ton of opportunities, as I spoke to earlier, within Surf Select. We have regional teams, we have national teams that go to certain events. And you can see that's our high school ages, but also down to 2015 ages. So I've highlighted some of those players that were chosen. We've also been really fortunate enough to have 4 players selected for youth national team ID camps that were held in Washington this year. Players of the year in the high school ages locally. We want to celebrate all those things, even if they don't happen under our umbrella or with our uniform on. We're proud of the players when we send them off to high school and they exceed. All conference teams, actually Alana, who's highlighted there as player of the year for 3A, she was as well all conference for our 2009 ECNL team. Birdie Skelly, who played locally at PCU before coming to us, was all regional team for the ECNL RL League for the U15s. Our little U11s, our 2014s, were finalists at Surf Cup San Diego. Super fun to watch them compete against the Southern California teams last summer. And Mila, she's a great example of how we've used the ODP pathway to capitalize on our development process locally and regionally. She was invited to the regional camp that's this summer. And lastly, Kiana over in the corner there, who has committed to a D1 school. That's kind of the end of this. And this we're highlighting individuals and team, but ECNL is really about the ECNL RL is really about individual development and how a player continues to develop from that U11 through U19 when we're sending them off to be somewhere else. And so some of those pieces about coping with stress, coping with performance anxiety, being able to compete under that stress, that's the whole point when we get them there to the final step in college, and hopefully they've built up some endurance for that physically and mentally. Many more things I could highlight. Oh, I didn't say Nat. Nat's also was first team all conference and has a number of college scouts at her games right now. Okay, quick overview of our club organization. We won't bore you too much with this, but Linus, who's on the call right now, he's our executive director. Scott already introduced himself as the head of operations. We have a couple directors of coaching under the boys and the girls side. I am here as the head DOC for the girls side, particularly the elite level of competition. Alec Ingram, who many of you may know, he's well known in the community. He's our director of coaching for our competitive boys and girls. And the Development Academy, which includes those U5 to U10 age groups, is Angelo. And he has some great help from Ryan Mash as well, and Alec. Okay. Another, a lot of verbiage here, but there's important info, and I will try to make it as clear as possible. I know there's a ton of acronyms out there right now for all the different leagues, and I want to give you just my honest opinion about why I'm here and why I came to the club 4 years ago was because of ECNL. It is the highest quality platform that a player can compete at on the girls' side right now. As an example, in our U12 age group, we are currently in 8th place in 2012, and we beat the #1 GA team. So just the relative competition that throughout the conference, there are no easy games. Every game is a challenge, and the difference can be 1-0 on a free kick, as an example. So it's wonderful. I think very well-informed coaching, well-informed development plans. You're playing against people that are adjusting their tactics for their 12-year-olds in the middle of the game. And I just have not been able to find that anywhere else with what we're providing locally. So believe me, when I'm not trying to be a salesman, I actually really love this stuff and believe it. Within those layers, like I already said, is our ECNL, which starts at officially at U11, or I'm sorry, at 11v11, which is U13. And our pre-ECNL age groups are currently U11 and U12. And then our ECNL RL is the same thing. That would officially start with 11v11, which is U13. And we do pre-ECNL RL teams as well. So our 2013 team has a pre-ECNL team, and they have a pre-RL team. The beautiful thing about that, and one of the reasons I also wanted to come here and coach, is that the fluidity that is offered between those age groups. And that goes all the way up to our U19s, and it's available at our U11s, where there's players training up with the NLs, there's players sharing back and forth to offer. It's just a much healthier, more realistic picture of development for youth players than you picked a roster in May and that's just where it is. It's like their needs change every 3-4 months for kids. So that's kind of the layers there. With all of these pre-ECNL, ECNL RL, and ECNL, they're training 3 days a week. ECNL competes in a national league, but our conference is the Northwest Conference. It's 5 Washington teams, 2 Utah teams, 1 team from Idaho, from Boise, and then us and the Thorns are the 2 Oregon teams. So there's 10 teams in the conference. Everybody plays each other twice. It's an 18-game season that runs from December through May. So it's a 6-month season, and that does take fitness, and it takes appropriate rest breaks, and it requires travel when we play our away games, which honestly is one of the best parts as a coach, because you have a captive audience to do game film and have a lot of team bonding events. Our ECNL RL League, it is us and Albion Thorns, Fields and RL team, and then our 5 Washington teams. So It's a little bit of a smaller conference on the RL side because it doesn't include Utah. The pre-ECNL age groups, as I said, they still compete in OYSA. Most of the time they're competed in age up. And then we use additional events like Surf Cup, or we set up friendlies with our ECNL partners. We just had one for 2013s against Pac Northwest last month to kind of as a prep into what ECNL will look like. Training locations, most of our training locations are on the west side. We have one training location that the ECNL only essentially uses at LaSalle High School. I'm an East Side person, so I do love that option. It's also just a great field, and they've been really great and allowing us to use a lot of space with 4 goals. Programming, in addition to that, we do some travel, which I'll revisit on another slide that we have. And the thing, when I look for players that might be appropriate for this level across the age groups, what I have learned is one of the first things I am looking at is not even ability, but it's mentality. I'm looking to see, does this player care when they lost the ball? Are they trying to get it back? Are they down a goal and they know it and it bothers them? Like I'm looking for a competitive mentality, because that piece of endurance and dealing with high performance the desire has to be strong on the child side, not just the ability. So you can see that even at the young ages for a child. I'm sure some people on here, they have kids that way. Okay, so this is our travel slide. So some of the summer tournaments that we will use for our ECNL and our RL teams. The Friendship Cup, which we took over. It's been a tournament. I used to play in it when I was a kid. It was run by ODP at that point. It's the same tournament, but we actually have taken it over and are running it. And we have some wonderful teams coming down to participate. In terms of ECNL, we have Crossfire, Washington Premier, Seattle United. We're super excited to be able to be on our home soil in May, Memorial Day, and be able to play top talent. The other tournament that I'm sure many people have heard of, it's Crossfire, but it is now under the name Surf Cup Northwest, and that is in July. That's our July event. And some of this, we didn't have enough space on the slide, but these are broken up by youngers and olders in Surf Cup Northwest too, which is up in Washington, in Redmond, on those beautiful grass fields. Surf Cup San Diego is split up between 3 different dates because obviously the volume of teams that they host, and they make it age group appropriate with 77 and 99. So those are split up into different dates as well. So those are our key summer events that we use. The showcases. So showcases, the ultimate goal of a showcase in ECNL and RL is individual showcasing. So the results do not count. For U15, U16, U17, and 19 especially, they're about recruiting. So that is when we get, I know that our 09s had over 40 coaches at one of their games in their Dallas showcase, college coaches. And those are D1, D2 coaches that are coming to watch players and see if they're a good fit for their program. Our players write letters. They let coaches know what their game schedule is and that they're interested in their school, and they ask them to come watch. And sometimes a coach already knows about a player. I mentioned Nat. She's a good example. She's got interest without having to write people. Even at local games, there was a number of D1 schools out to our games this past weekend. So what happens in this showcases is that we actually do our pre-ECNL, which is currently our 2013s, are going to go to a showcase tomorrow. They do one showcase, as I was saying earlier, kind of a preliminary look at what ECNL competition looks like. So that's our one event that we do as a transition to prep the youngest age group. But Phoenix is the only showcase we send everybody to. Our U11s do one showcase as well. Our U15s, or sorry, not U11s, that's 2011, U14. Our U15s, which is currently 2010 age group, they do two showcases. The 2009s as well do two showcases. The final 2 years, we go up to 3 showcases and potentially even 4 if we feel that it's needed for recruiting in the final year. And so I just outlined the showcases we did this year. There's ECNL, I think, offers maybe 7 or 8, and you choose which ones that your club has to attend. And that's one of the things I actually love about ECNL is we travel as a club. It's not individual families showing up, but it's about the club culture that we build and teaching kids to prep for college. And we have study hours when we're away. And so they start learning these skills pretty early about how to organize their time, how to sleep well, how to take care of their bodies when they're off the field. Our RLs do the Davis Showcase, which did have, I think, 100 college coaches at it, is what I'd heard from the March event. We sent 3 teams there as well, our 09s, our 08s, and our 07s. Okay, so this is kind of what I was just talking about. This is some of the stuff I love because you get to meet and you get to do your individual development plans. You get to check in with players, have team meetings. So the team travel we do as soon as players go into 11v11, we're all going together. We're taking the same flight. They're staying in player rooms. It does save on cost because you're not having to do all that independently for yourself every time. At our club, some clubs do that where they're like, get your player there. Sharing rooms, 3 to 4 to a room, that is builds a lot of team camaraderie, but also does save money, but it teaches them for when they're older. For the younger ages, like I mentioned, our 2011s went to Surf Cup. I'm doing the same thing the parents do. 2014s, U11, they went to Surf Cup, the group that was in the finals, and that was family travel. So that is truly, you're getting your own hotel, you're traveling with your child down there, they're sleeping in a hotel room with you. You're managing a lot of the off-field activities that you should do or shouldn't do to save energy. And there is some group activities outside of that, but it's a different model versus when they hit U13, which is currently our 2012 age group. Here's our busy slide with info. So one of the things I did want to draw your attention to, since this is focused on the elite level, is our ECNL and our ECNL RL train 3 days a week. Okay, so if you're currently in a competitive program, many times you're training twice a week. So that is an added night where we do improve training. I mean, it makes a huge difference. But I understand for families, it's nice to know, okay, that's another night you'd be committed to driving your kid to practice. For our U11s and U12s, which is currently our 2014s and 2015s, or 2014s and 2013s, they still train 3 days a week for us because that's still our elite platform. Underneath that, when we're at U11, U12, and we're at a competitive level, we're not playing on the top 2 teams, then we're training twice a week. And anything that is deemed competitive level would be, which is sometimes very much what somebody wants, a family wants, or a player wants, that will be 2 trainings a week. Okay. Some of our upcoming events. I talked about Friendship Cup. That's Memorial Day in May. We are running a college ID camp. In May, we're doing that for the boys' side and the girls' side. Super excited about that. We've had good attendance in the past few years we've done it. We do, as I said, offer some summer team opportunities for mostly men and women that are kind of in between their college year. They're home for summer and they want to continue to train, or there might be post-college and still wanting to play at a higher level. We offer those. We also offer a number of summer camps. We just did a camp at spring break, And those summer camps are targeted at different levels too. They can be at the elite platform, or they can just be, welcome and open to everybody. Upcoming information sessions. So the next one that we're doing is April 7th. So next week, same time, same day of the week for our elite boys side, which is what Scott's in charge of.
So I think that's everything. Holly, thank you for going through all that information. There is a number of questions in the chat. So if you give me one
Yes.
second,
Oh,
I'll stop
do you
sharing.
want me to read them and answer them, or what would you like?
I can read them out
Okay.
if that makes it easier.
Yep.
So the first one is, when might there be more emphasis on developing players at the competitive level for ECNL and ECRL? Last season, more players made these levels from outside of the club over players that have been playing in this club for years.
That's a good question. I understand the frustration there as well. I will here's my honest answer, because I do believe in transparency to parents, because I know that this landscape is kind of crazy. I think as coaches for the elite platform as an Oregon club, it is already quite challenging when you're faced with numbers. As an example, Seattle United has 10,000 players at their club. Okay. So when we are picking a roster, like, we will pick to what we think will serve that level the best. And that does not mean that we've done a perfect job of developing and promoting. So if this was my child, I would definitely be reaching out actively to the coach. I mean, we have, as an example, our 2013s do have a few from the RL that train up. I know we have some competitives for our 2012 age group that have come and moved up actively. I think we've moved up 3 from our competitive blue team. But if that's a frustration on the parent side, because it's very individual, I don't want to say across the board, it would be appropriate to everybody, but I would have a conversation with the coach, and that could be both coaches. It might be the RL coach and the competitive coach, and let them know that this is something the player's seeking, get feedback on the possibility of it happening, or if they don't think it's appropriate, get feedback on maybe what the player needs to work on. But it's difficult to make definitely, like I said, one of the things I'm really invested in is I do believe there should be fluidity at the youngest ages, and we move players up and down depending on what they need at the oldest age too, at the 07s, at the 08s. But it's a conversation. It's about the individuals rather than programmatic across the board, the same decision.
Holly, do you mind if I add some more context?
Yeah.
So to help answer that question from an operations standpoint, our goal is to create every possible pathway based on the developmental needs of your child. And so one of the things that we're already starting to do is have increased conversation across directors and coaches to identify and understand where players are at on their journey and where do they need to be placed for either greater visibility, greater emphasis to help their technical ability or their tactical ability. So to Holly's point, it's not going to be a blanket change that happens tomorrow, but there is going to be increased communication. We do want to highlight and emphasize development within our club, because that is a mechanism of us showcasing how we teach our kids. So if they can make that progression from a competitive team to an ECRL team, or from an RL team to an NL team, it's showing that we are teaching and communicating and identifying players where they need to be.
I mean, as a great example, there's a player that's playing with ECNL right now that was a competitive player and has worked so hard and advanced so much in such a short time that she's makes an impact at the ECNL level. I know that Alec is on the call, our competitive director too. If he's able to unmute, I know he just had a thought.
We might have to circle back with him on it
Oh,
because he won't be able
okay.
to jump in.
Oh, okay.
but
No
we
problem.
will definitely send out answers afterward. And if you do have follow-up questions, you're welcome to reach out to Holly or myself or Alec or Linus. The next question, my daughter will be a U12 in May. If accepted in tryouts, is placement in pre-ECNL specified, or are they put in a pool of competitive players to be separated out later for higher end teams?
That's an interesting question. I know that some clubs do pool players and then decide in August or whatever where everybody falls. Scott, and we even talked about this recently. Do you want to offer your thoughts first?
Yeah, this time period is very tricky. And we'll be very honest that trying to evaluate a player in just an hour or 2 hour window is not realistic. My personal philosophy is that players should be evaluated over the course of the year, especially as they grow and develop. So I would say to this answer that being selected into a pool is kind of an initial evaluation, and that over the course of the summer, the coaches will continue to evaluate their player, and there might be changes to higher competitive levels, and there might be changes where it's more technically appropriate. But I think there's always a conversation with families to make sure that we as the club are meeting your needs.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that because it's a conversation I just had with some of my current players that because if we have told you you're on an ECNL team or you're on a pre-ECNL team and that doesn't mean you're one and done for the year because the expectation is so high for commitment, workload, um, and developing as a player, and that requires obviously the player's own investment, the family's investment. So it's vice versa. You may, like I just gave the example of the player that was on competitive 9 months ago and is in ECNL games. It's like that was really driven by her investment. And you can have the opposite. You can have maybe somebody that made an ECNL team and like there's just not a lot of investment, and then it turns out maybe to not be appropriate. Um, so I would just say along with Scott, I think it's both and. I will be honest with you and be like, hey, I'm not quite sure. I haven't seen enough. Here's what I have seen, but I see you potentially as being in the middle right now, but I need more time to look at you. And then it actually really tells off, does the player want to be here? If they want to be here and they're in it for the development, I think that's always a vote in the player's favor too.
Next question. Will you be giving or will you be pulling up competitive level players for these national opportunities?
I'm not sure what national opportunities we're talking about. Are we talking about Surf Select? Are we talking about ECNL?
I'll have to get a clarifying answer in the chat or in the questions for that. Um, I'll take a best guess at this answer that we do want to provide opportunities for our competitive players. Uh, Competitive players are often either players that are multi-sport athletes that have a number of conflicts throughout the year, or their commitment level may not warrant a trip to Florida or Texas or another state. So the goal for our competitive players is finding national opportunities within our region. So going up to Surf Northwest would be a regional event that is big enough and has the highest level that would warrant that national opportunity for a competitive level player.
Because they can attract teams from everywhere. Yeah.
Do you assign positions to players in U12, or do you promote playing different positions at that level?
Great question. And I think Jennifer also asked, how large are your U12 teams?
I think she did too. Yeah.
This is a great question. I want to kind of give a caveat as our 2014s. We had a group of 14 to 15 2014s, but we split them in two teams and played. So there was a ton of playing time, but the actual team was 14 to 15 players. There was a 2015 on the team. But they got a lot of game opportunities because we played them in two different divisions. So the point being is have no interest in sitting a bunch of people on a bench at the young ages. We want to play as much as we can. in whatever way we need to make that happen, whether it's, the ECNL and RL players are sharing games, or if you have a big enough pool, maybe you're splitting them into two teams and playing in them in different divisions in OYSA. But the goal would definitely be lots of playing time in the pre-ECNL age groups. Oh, I'm sorry, assigning positions. No, we wouldn't assign positions. I would say, there's natural tendencies of players that you see. Maybe a player has a natural tendency to defend or a natural tendency to attack, which lends to where they may play on the field. But it is always a great policy to have them work on the opposite thing, because it usually ends up potentially being a bit of a deficit. Like, okay, now we got to work on your defending. And that goes all the way up through the college, the pre-college age, where you're great at scoring goals, but man, you can't 1v1, you can't defend. So we're trying to equip players to not have massive deficits, which starts at the young ages.
Absolutely. A good rule of thumb is that if we have the ball, we're all attackers, and if we don't have the ball, we are all defenders.
That is true.
Question: Are you partnering with Catlin Gable to use their fields? LaSalle High School is very far from the west end of town. That would be a no-go for us.
Okay, Jennifer. Is this Jennifer? Yes. I cannot speak to Catlin. LaSalle High School is not used. It's used for the ECNL age groups currently, U13 and up. And even that, it's mostly the 2012 age group has a number of East Side players, so we do a bit of both. But and the older, the 08s use it quite a bit, but it's only one field, so it's kind of the exception.
Yeah, I would just say our main training grounds are Mountainside, Champions Park, THPRD, PCC Rock Creek are the main West Side locations. We are always looking to add additional partners to the club, and we are also looking to maximize our current field allocation.
Yes. Jeff Lang. Okay, go ahead.
In past seasons, there would be a break after tryouts. With Friendship Cup so close to tryouts, will there be a break in June instead?
Great question. I think we have laid out our calendar for the summer, and that is one of the things that Alec and I were specifically looking at. Is we do like to take a week off for everybody, a week or 2 weeks off for families to not have to drive to training, for the club to kind of collect themselves and be ready to go for summer. I think it's a little bit team age group dependent is the honest answer, especially with how tryouts may fall. My goal is definitely to give a week off, not to for every age group and every platform. I don't have the specific dates, and then we have some other week off. We have some isolated time periods where we would like coaches to give their teams time off, like July 4th week is the biggest one that I think works across most of the age group. So I can't totally answer that yet, Jeff.
I'm going to answer the next two questions as a combined. So the one is, do you know if surf ECNL tryouts will conflict with tryouts from other local other teams? And then the second question is asking if folks can come out to watch a tryout. So we are currently juggling. Come out to watch practice.
Yeah.
So we're currently juggling a number of different tryout dates when we are allowed to host our tryout. So that's why we said keep an eye out for our website and social media when we post that. Anybody is allowed to come out to watch a training session. You're allowed to go watch any club, anywhere. If you are planning to join a training session, you need to give your current head coach or club a heads up via a written email in order to do so. So we want to be very respectful of other clubs. We also don't want to discourage people from watching us train, us teach, and us coach and getting a feel for the club. If your tryout conflicts, We ask you and your family to use your best judgment. So if you have a real big desire to try and compete at the highest levels or be at the top level clubs, then I would say try out for us in Thorns and maybe don't go after your third or fourth choice. If you're not sure between the two, I would say go to one tryout for one team. Next day, go to the other tryout. So you split it and you give that head coach or that club a visibility to the fact that you are wrestling with these choices. That is absolutely okay. We understand that this is a very challenging time with a number of tryouts happening at once, and we want to be flexible to work with you so that you feel armed with the best knowledge to make the most educated choice. What is the club teaching methodology? How are staff coaches trained, monitored, supported, assessed in implementation of the methodology?
Well, number one, it's players first, right? And as we have our coaches that are working with our players, we make our best judgment that our coaches are providing the best experience for the players from start to finish, meaning in a healthy and productive way for the whole player experience. So that is a challenging equation every year. But as a club, we do the best that we can to make sure that we're delivering on that experience for our players and families.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would just say for me, being a DOC, one of the things I was just thinking about today as we were meeting, discussing coaching growth and development is that I appreciate the people I work with. It's a pretty humble environment in terms of what our weaknesses might be as a coach and what our strengths might be. And we rely on each other to fill those pieces in. We do have a game model. At the ECNL level, there's the reality of the level of competition and sometimes the tactics you have to change to match your opponent or to weaken your opponent. So I would not say that it's going to look the same for every team that you watch. Um, I think if we had a player pool, if we were at Manchester United or on the boys' side, maybe, that you might have the luxury of executing that because you'd have the player pool to do it and you could pick them. I think that we have goals, but also we deal with the reality of our competition. And so we have to adjust within what our ideal is. But coach development wise, yes, we do coaching evaluations. We do discuss coach development. There's a lot of questions here, so I'll just the IDP process, that's individual development plans. The players do a self-evaluation, they meet with the coach, they discuss their progress. For example, for me with my current team, the players make goals and their development. If anybody knows SMART phrases, we walk through realistically how they can accomplish those goals. In the middle of the year, we revisit it, see how they're doing on their individual development plan. We've actually done team sessions that are targeted at working on your IDP goals, which might be long balls or receiving out of the air, whatever it is. And players come in with those goals. Then before tryouts, which is ideally in April, you revisit the IDP, give players any final feedback so they're going into tryouts without surprises. And it's a conversation. There's a lot of ownership for the player too, which I think is really important, and it's also empowering. And those IDPs we started to put in an electronic platform. So as I pick up a new team, if the coach has gone through their IDP process, which we just started electronically this year, I can see what's already been done. I can see what they've been working on. I can see what goals the player set. So like as Linus is saying, that this is player centered. So we don't want that to just be a Scott thing. And then I pick them up and I do something different. We want it to be based on the player. And we are doing consistent things for them throughout their growth in the program, ECNL and RL program. Players are grouped by age group. That doesn't mean, I think part of coaching youth players is you're going to have people that are different cognitive development, emotional development, social development. And I think the social IQ of the coach is quite important in managing and recognizing those differences in your player pool. And as our coaches meeting today, we were talking about, one of our coaches was talking about knowing your players, you know, and knowing individually what different approaches might work with different players. It's not going to be the same thing for everybody. And I think some of that is definitely based on their different areas of development and mentality around the game. Players per age group. We have kept our numbers pretty small at the younger ages to provide as much playing time as possible. So our 2012 age group has 15 players. We allow a couple 2013s, not allow, we love it, and we need them. We have a couple 2013s that play with us as well as their 2013 team. We have a player I talked about earlier who's swinging in between RL and NL right now. So that you have a roster, and then you have a little, like I said, that fluidity can influence your game day roster. At the oldest age groups, because we have people graduate early and go to college, or we have them having other demands in their final senior year, we usually carry a larger roster, 18 to 22, to allow, there's a lot of travel and showcases, and those can be expensive for a player who's already committed to a school.
And there was a question about goalkeepers there, Holly.
Goalkeepers. I can't find that one.
I got it.
Okay.
What do surf goalkeeper trainings and staff look like? Are they separate from team training, and how many times per week?
Okay. They are separate from team training. Our goalkeeping program is actually growing and evolving right now with some of the new staff we've hired. Currently, the goalkeeping training is 1 to 2 times a week apart from their team training. But as an example, last night, Jim, one of our goalkeeping directors, came out to my session, and which was amazing because they were working in the context of what we're doing as a team, working on crossing and finishing and defending it. And having him coach the goalies where I was able to coach the field players was great. I think that's one of the strengths of the program. And we do have a number of goalkeeping coaches that float around to the different groups to help our goalkeepers at the ECNL and RL level. I think Mike is asking about the RL schedule. I think I don't know if that's looked like the next one after Matt's question.
Yeah.
I was just talking to our conference chair about the RL schedule, and I know they're looking to expand the games. I agree with you. There's a lot of interest in being able to build up the schedule enough to potentially not rely on OYSA because of quality. Like our 09 RL team is phenomenal, and you want regular, consistent competition. So that is part of, I don't have a final answer, Mike, for the RL schedule. It's something I'm literally just kind of waiting on to be able to put out there. But I know coming from the top down to the different conferences, they want to expand the RL schedule to make it more of a meaty league rather than right now it feels like a supplement to what we're doing.
Next one, will the tryouts for NL and RL be the same tryouts or separate?
I'll let you answer that, Scott.
Yeah, so we are still building out that schedule. My goal is to make the tryout window as long as possible so that we don't have all of our teams at one field at one time. So I don't have a definitive answer for you, but my goal is to have separate tryouts that we can evaluate players with a higher player to coach ratio.
When can my daughter come to training? Well, Matt, that depends on what, if they are released from their club. So we have a form, a player inquiry form that we ask players or their parents to fill out. And that asks you to contact your DOC or forward us permission from your current DOC saying that you have permission to train. So once we have that, then we can discuss specifics around schedule. Because like Scott said, it is difficult to see players if there's a bunch of new people and you have an hour to see everybody and they're nervous. I know the young players that might take them doing something 4 times before you kind of really get to see how they are.
I think the next question kind of ties into that. So you mentioned a player possibly trying out for more than one club. If a player only comes to a tryout for one day because of trying out at another club, are they at a disadvantage?
Let's give a real answer here.
Yeah.
I think, go ahead. Do you want to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jennifer, I would recommend if you truly want to try out for multiple clubs, talk to your current club and ask to get permission to go either to train or go watch a session. That way you can jump in with lower pressure. You can get a feel for the coach, your player can get a feel for the team, and that might help you make a better educated decision. If you can only make just the tryouts, then I definitely recommend telling Holly or myself ahead of time. And we'll make sure that the coaches know that your player is only there for that one day.
Okay, objectively evaluating players at tryouts. I mean, no coach has a desire to not find an appropriate player for the level of the team they're selecting. We all want to find those players that are going to be appropriate for, especially ECNL and RL, because they're demanding schedules and the training is demanding. So we all want to find those. I don't think anybody's coming in to not see somebody. But I do want you all to, because I'm a parent as well as a coach, I do want you all to know that it can be, think about, I'm sure you've seen your child at a tryout, they're nervous. Maybe they're performing at about 40 to 50% of themselves, right? And they have an hour, they don't know anybody, they're socially uncomfortable. I think it's hard. You miss things. You definitely miss people. So like Scott was saying, when you can see somebody in a training, that's or even see them within their own platform where they're totally comfortable. I think that's the best insight into where a player's at. So elite teams, and this isn't I want to speak really honestly, it's not like everybody fits in ECNL if just as long as they work hard enough. It's hard. It's difficult. Not everybody does fit. So you may have a very talented high-level player who's injured during tryouts. You know their character, you know their capability, you've seen them perform under pressure. Yes, they may make the team because we already know that they fit into the level that we're going to be playing at. So I don't want to pretend that it's that there's these rules and we everybody, it's there is a small number that can succeed at ECNL. And we do try to find those players. And it may be that somebody's injured and they make the team because we already know they're at the right level.
I'll just add on to that as well that our coaching staff does watch other games, both within the club and outside of the club. And then our coaches do talk to one another about players ahead of time. So I'll use the ECNL games this last weekend between Eastside and Crossfire. We had 8 directors on the sideline watching games, having conversations with the coaches both before and after their games about what we saw, both for the top players at Crossfire that were coming down from Seattle and our own players and how they performed. So if we're doing our job correctly, we should already have a very good sense of all of our players we've already coached. And then we should also have essentially scouting reports on all of our competition and kids in the area.
But there are people who show up to tryouts and you're like, whoa, okay. I mean, I have one on my team, the 2012 team right now. I was like, okay, I didn't know that player and they're great. So definitely that happens. It's just that it happens less the higher up you go, is the honest answer. Okay, sorry, there was,
Yeah.
coaching. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, the question is who's going to be coaching the U15 team next year?
We should have that coming out in social media next week. Is that what we're saying? Okay.
That's the
So
tentative
next week.
plan.
All right. And Jennifer, who do I contact to schedule upcoming practice? We have, like I was saying, there's a player inquiry form on our website, correct, Linus? That link should be visible. Yes, Scott? Okay, so that it is, because I've seen it on there too. So you just need to fill that out. That gives us your contact info. That also lets us know if you want us to reach out to your DOC or you want to do it yourself. And then you're going to provide us with that documentation saying that you can come. Okay. So that is the most official way to start that process. And it can be pretty quick. I mean, you could fill it out tonight and we could, as long as we get permission, it could move pretty quickly.
Yep.
All right.
One more. If my club will not release my athlete to come to practice, do you have another way before tryouts to help them be noticed?
Yeah. The answer is no, because we are bound by our state rules, so we have to abide by that.
Yes, Scott's going to add something onto that real quick.
Yeah.
As
So
a caveat.
just to just so it's very clear for everybody, we as a club want to be respectful and abide by all the rules by our state governing association. That does not stop you as a family from sending us potential state cup schedules that your player might be at. Or if there's highlight videos that your club has posted on their social media channels or are public knowledge, you are welcome to share that with us because that's all public information. So we want to make sure that there's no side channel conversations, but anything that's public, you are welcome to share with us. And then you're also welcome to, like I said, go onto that link, give us your information, and that also helps us identify you before tryouts.
Scott, you said that way better than I did, so thank you.
You just teed me up. It was all you, Lennis. Well, we are a minute past time. I want to thank everybody for joining. Some amazing questions. So hopefully we answered all of them. If we did not answer your question, please send us an email. You can use the inquiry link at oregonsurf.org. But like I said, thank you. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Linus. And we hope to see you all out of tryouts.